Okay, so here's a video overview of our ALS pack, and our ALS pack is paired with the oxygen caddy for full service. The O2 caddy has a D-tank, an adult dynamic breather, a peds dynamic breather, and a cannula in the zippered pouch there on the top of it. Then we start through the ALS pack. There's a very top lid zippered compartment, and inside there is a nebulizer bag and then the chest trauma bag. Now the nebulizer bag contains a nebulizer set, the chamber, O2 tubing, the T-piece, the mouthpiece, the reservoir tubing, the whole neb kit, plus an adult aerosol mask, and then one packet of ipratropium, one packet of albuterol, and one packet of racemic epi. The chest trauma bag that's located next to the neb bag in that top lid compartment of the ALS pack. The chest trauma bag is something we wanted to be able to have rapid access to, and that bag contains 4 packs of 4x4s under the theory that a chest trauma patient is going to need to have their chest cleaned as best we can in order to get a seal to stick. And then 2 chest seals, whether it's 2 SAMs or 2 Ashermans or one of each, doesn't matter, but 2 chest seals, and then 2 chest needles, and we're using the ARS needle dart. So there's 2 of those in there, and the theory you might need to dart both sides of the chest. And also, just because you put one dart in doesn't mean it's going to last. So we wanted to have both available in the top. The end pocket of the ALS pack has some basic BLS trauma sort of supplies, some 4x4s, 8x10s, a roll of big tape, a Curlex, and a SAM splint rolled up. The opposite end of the bag then has the adult bag valve mask with the O2 tubing already connected. In the front pocket, we keep things for vital signs, so temporal scan thermometer, a pen light, quick access for the scissors. The glucometer set is in there. That's what's shown in the little Ziploc bag there. That may be in a pouch depending on what the configuration is at the time. Then a BP cuff and a stethoscope. We're expecting that paramedics have their own stethoscope, a real stethoscope, but we want to provide a backup stethoscope in here. In the lid of the pack that flips open, is where we keep critical cardiac meds. So there's 5 adenosines in there, 2 atropines, and 6 epis. And when we realized that a full dose of atropine is 3, we felt like by that time transport would have happened. Excuse me. Inside the pack we see there's a small med pack that's right next to the intubation kit there. It's in red, the clear pocket on it. The intubation kit would be the red kit there with the handles, and then the IVIO kit is yellow. We'll go through each of those individually. Here we took the med pack out so you can see that the King Airways are in the bottom, 1 of each size, a 3, 4, and a 5. Inside the med pack, so this is the small pack that is accessible once you open up the main part of the bag. Inside the med pack we have a glucose paste, a couple of Narcan, a glucagon set. And we realize it's a 2 vial set. One's powder, one's water, so it takes 2 vials to make 1 glucagon more or less. A nitro spray, some aspirin, 1 box of D50, a vial of thiamine, and then there's also a Cardizem bag and a med administration bag, and I'll go through those. Cardizem bag has what you'll need to draw up and give Cardizem, a 10 cc saline flush, a couple of needles, a needle adapter if that were to be needed, and then 2 diltiazem Cardizems, and I've shown 1 of each kind that we have a large quantity of in our outdated med section. The med administration bag has a couple of has a 10 cc syringe and a 10 cc flush, a couple of MAD devices, a mucosal atomization device for intranasal administration, a needle adapter so you can go from a syringe with a needle into a needleless system, and then a couple of 1 cc syringes, a couple of alcohol wipes, pretty standard stuff. Intubation kit's going to take several screens to go through, so hang with me there. As you open the intubation kit up on the left side, you'll see a roll of tape, and you'll see the straight blades, and we're using, in this case, they're Millers, but Miller or Wisconsin or whatever it is, doesn't matter. A straight blade, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, 1 each of those. adult McGill forceps in the pocket right above those straight blades, an adult bougie, the blue item that you see sticking out, and right in the same pocket with that bougie is the nasal intubation bag, and I'll go through what's in there in a little bit. Then behind that, ET tubes, one each, and the number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. We're using rounded off sizes here in our training ALS pack. And then behind those tubes, you can't really see it, there's a zippered pouch that you can open up, and behind that is where the gastric tube bag fits, and we'll go through the contents of that in a bit. There's 2 of the 10cc syringes in that center fold, the kind of the binding part of the pack. 2 10cc syringes and an adult laryngoscope handle. So the nasal intubation pack was on that left side, and here's what's in it. A couple of NPAs in progressively larger sizes, so pretty big, decent size NPAs. A couple of packets of lube, regular lube. The BAM whistle is that red device there, which allows you to hear exhalation from that ET tube as you're trying to place it. Excuse me, and help you time your procedure. Some lidocaine jelly for those services that allow lidocaine jelly for numbing of the nasopharynx, and then an Endotrol tube. It's a number 6 that's shown there, but we need to be trying to use Endotrol tubes. Endotrol tubes have the trigger on the end, on the exposed end, the connector end, that allows you to manipulate the tip remotely. On the right side of the intubation kit, in the upper pouch, there's goggles. There's a bag of batteries. I'll show you that in a second. A tube holder bag, a bag for the salt airway, and a bag for the crike. And we'll go through each of those individually. Below that pouch, there's the MAC blades, curved, number 2, 3, and 4. There's 1 each, and they're sitting underneath the King Vision, the black case, and the 2 King Vision blades that you see. The King Vision camera is in that black case. King Vision blades, a channeled and a non-channeled, 1 of each, so you can have an option for whatever your preference or whatever the situation dictates. And then on that divider that divides between the right and left sides of the bag, there are some spaces for a full set of OPAs and a full set of NPAs, and the NPAs are in a bag with some lube packet. Okay, so inside that zippered pouch on the right side of the intubation kit is the crike bag. In the crike bag is a scalpel that you would need for surgical crike, and then there is a 10 gauge as well as a 14 gauge IV catheter that we'd use for needle crike. And then we've provided the way to adapt to any of those, all 3 ways to adapt to any of those are provided in the bag, so you don't have to go hunting for them. So there are 3 options for adapting to that needle, the hub of the IV catheter for a needle crike. There's 3 options. One is to hook a 3cc syringe barrel to that IV catheter hub and then use an adapter stolen from a 7.0 ET tube, and that's already put together for you there on that 3cc syringe. Another way is to use a 10cc syringe barrel, which is already there. You don't have to go hunting for one. The plunger's been removed, so it's just the barrel, and you would lure lock, twist lock that syringe to the IV catheter hub, and then any ET tube you want will fit inside that 10cc barrel, and you just inflate the cuff, and that's how you get the seal. That method, of course, leaves you with a lot of equipment to hold on to, and so it's kind of a preference as to whether you want to use that method or not. The third method that leaves you very little to hold on to but has the least number of moving parts is simply a 3.5 ET tube adapter that we stole off an ET tube, and it's in the bag as well, and that's the blue item that's right there in front of you. Spare bulbs, spare batteries. The 2 C cells are for the adult laryngoscope handle. The AAA cells are for the King Vision camera, and then a laryngoscope blade bulb to trade out with any of those in case you have a bulb go bad on you on the scene, and that's the only blade that you're going to be able to use. Also in that pouch, zippered pouch on the right side of the intubation kit, are the tube holders. We have one of the adult commercial tube holders as well as one of the twill ties that's made out of umbilical tape and a piece of suction tubing. The salt airway bag's up there. There's 3 parts to the salt itself, which is sitting in the center of that picture, the epiglottic blade, which is absolutely critical to proper placement, that's on the left, and then the tube holder strap for that situation where you're going to leave the salt in with an ET tube down the middle. Also inside the ALS pack is the IV-IO bag, and this is not just IO, it's a combination IV start kit, and comes in that yellow pouch. Inside on the left side, we've got an 18 and a 14 gauge IV catheter, a couple of alcohol pads, a tourniquet. The tape and vena guards are in the pocket behind there. And then the Saline Lock Bag is the Ziploc bag that is secured underneath one of those straps, and we'll go through what's in there. There's a saline flush in there, there's a saline lock that's in the package still, and then you can see the extension set that works for that. On the right side of the IV-IO kit, the IV bag, the liter bag loaded, already preloaded into a pressure bag, is sitting there on top. Now the example that I had already had the bag spiked. We don't expect that would be the case in the real world, but there it is in the example in the picture. So the set could be right next to the bag if you don't have the bag already spiked. I think spiking that bag at the start of your shift is probably not all that smart of an idea. So those will usually be separately provided. But we think preloading that IV bag in the pressure bag is a real time saver. Then there's some other stuff underneath that we'll show you. Here's the stuff that's underneath. You can see that the IV bag itself has been moved. Got a couple of epi preloads in there, as well as a vasopressin bag and an amio bag. I'll show you those. And then the IO needle holder, and the IO driver for the Easy IO are right in there. We think it's really important that we be able to rapidly get meds on board in a cardiac arrest, and so to put the epi preloads in there makes sense. And the next two medicines you're going to use, regardless of what type of cardiac arrest you're working, the next two you're going to use are vaso and amio, and we wanted to put those together in bags to try to facilitate this problem where you have to draw up medications that you're going to give in a cardiac arrest. So vasopressin bags got two vasos. Again, they're a little different configuration based on how we get outdates. We use outdated meds, and depending on how they're supplied, the one very obviously says vasopressin, and the other one has the more Pitressin, the more generic or trade name. I'm sorry, the more trade name, whereas the one on the right has the generic name, vasopressin. There's a syringe in there and a couple of blunt fill needles, and that should facilitate you being able to draw up vaso, which you need, of course, in very early on in your cardiac arrest. We don't want you to go searching through the bag, and we simply don't want you to blow off vasopressin either. There's some real benefits to that. We're trying to facilitate that with this bag configuration. Also, there's amio, and you can see there's a couple of different variations on how the amio is supplied in some cases. A 3 cc syringe times 2, because you'll need potentially 2 doses there. 3 amios, a couple of blunt needles, and an injection needle. So we're hoping that will really facilitate your ability to rapidly intervene on patients with cardiac and critical trauma emergencies, critical airway situations. We're not expecting that you could run everything about every call out of your first in pack. That's why it's called the first in pack. So we hope that this helps you in terms of checklists and getting to know the pack, and thanks for watching.